In depth, Vincent Chin inspired protest marches, rallies, dinners, banquets.
The killing of Vincent Chin is probably the most tragic example of the kind of violence that's being committed against Asians.
Every year in the United States, thousands of people fall victim to hate-motivated crimes and bias attacks grounded in ethnicity. Racial violence is not confined to the past and continues to pose a serious threat to many people today. It is in this context of ongoing prejudice and violence that the story of Vincent Chin takes on a profound significance. One night on June 19, 1982 in Detroit, Michigan, Vincent Chin and his friends were celebrating his bachelor's party. However, their night was interrupted by two men, Ronald Ebbins and his stepson, Michael Nitz. They blamed Vincent for their recent layoff at Chrysler, an automobile company, because by the 1980s, Japan had taken the title of world leader in the automobile industry from the US because of their more fuel-efficient and affordable cars. Though American automobile companies had been the ones to move to Japanese soil originally, American auto workers were quick to condemn Asian Americans for the decline in jobs. They confronted Vincent, who wasn't even Japanese, but Chinese, saying it's because of him they were out of work. To which Vincent replied by punching Ebbins. The three men were all kicked out of the club for fighting and continued to do so in the parking lot. When Ebbins retrieved a baseball bat from his car, Vincent retreated. However, Ebbins and Nitz didn't give up so easily. They spent 20 minutes searching for Vincent, reportedly paying a third man to help them. Finally, they found Vincent at a nearby McDonald's, where Nitz held him down as Ebbins beat him with the baseball bat. They beat him till his skull fractured. He was taken to Henry Ford Hospital, where he was unconscious for 4 days. At the end of it all, on June 23rd, Vincent Chin was dead. His last words whispered to his friend before he lost consciousness were, "It's not fair," which later became a common symbol during protests. That following week, the guests who were supposed to attend his wedding attended his funeral instead. But it wasn't this brutal killing that garnered the attention of the nation, like other modern hate crimes. It was the ruling that angered the AAPI community and its allies nationwide. Ebbins and Nitz were originally charged with second-degree murder, though a plea bargain was reached. They were each sentenced by Judge Charles Kaufman to 3 years of probation with no jail time and fined $3,000. That was a poor punishment for the crime they committed. In defense of this ruling, Judge Kaufman said, "These weren't the kind of men you send to jail. You don't make the punishment fit the crime, you make the punishment fit the criminal." Little did he know that this remark would set off a reaction, becoming one of the greatest reforms in Asian American history. Kaufman's outrageous logic repelled fear throughout many Asians and other minority groups. Their initial reactions were ones of fear. Families stayed shut in their homes, children weren't allowed past the evening, and mainly, no one knew who was next. The American justice system didn't just fail Vincent's family, it failed the whole AAPI community. However, in the following months, people couldn't stay quiet anymore. It catalyzed Asian Americans to band together. The American Citizens of Justice, or the AJC, headed by Asian American community leaders, was created, and they petitioned the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate Vincent's case as a violation of his civil rights. The Department of Justice did open an investigation, which served as the first time Asian Americans were protected in a federal civil rights prosecution, according to History.com, because they were not previously viewed as a protected class. In 1984, the U.S. District Court sentenced Ebbins to 25 years in prison, though he was released 2 years later because of improper prosecution witness coaching. Vincent's mother, Lily Chin, was left without a son and justice, saying, "What kind of law is this? What kind of justice? If 2 Chinese killed a white person, they must go to jail, maybe for their whole lives. Something is wrong with this country." And the community was left in fear once more. Although Lily Chin faced this, she bounced back with many brave fighters who stood together to revolt. As one activist stated, "It could have been any one of us. It can be all of us together." She refused to let her son's death be forgotten. Lily Chin traveled across the country, speaking at protests, universities, and public events, demanding justice and exposing the failures of the legal system. Her courage inspired thousands to rise with her. Back in the 1980s, protests for Asian American rights were limited, so her bold move made an impact as a revolution that inspired many. In response, activists formed the ACJ, or the American Citizens for Justice, one of the first organizations created specifically to fight for Asian American civil rights. For the first time, Asian Americans from different ethnic backgrounds united as one community. Activists such as Helen Zia helped organize demonstrations, educate the public, and bring national media attention to Vincent's case. This moment marked a turning point, as Asian Americans shifted from silence and invisibility to collective resistance and political action. What started as a local revolution turned into a national symbol of unity and hope. Vincent's cousin and AAPI activist Annie Tan has worked with other prominent activists such as Helen Zia to bring awareness to her cousin's death. We had the opportunity to interview her and gain her personal perspective, including insights and information that could not be found through other sources.
But in this case, everyday people could see themselves in Vincent Chin. And so even as I walk through life today, people are like, I became this person because of Vincent. Victoria Chang, the poet, she wrote Obit and a number of other books. I met her 2 years ago, and she told me she was 3 years old when, Vincent's murder was happening and the protests were happening in Detroit. And she told me when she was 3, she was helping make posters on behalf of my cousin. And she said she thinks about Vincent every day. And she would not be the person she is today had Vincent's story not affected her so much. And so I think a lot of it is just this broader notion that you can be a different person. You can be someone who's empowered to fight back and also make sure nothing happens to anyone. And I'll also note that none of this would have happened if Lily Chin hadn't said, I want justice for my son.
As stated by Annie, Vincent Chin's case led to meaningful reform. His case helped establish Asian Americans as a protected class under federal civil rights law, allowing hate crimes against them to be investigated and prosecuted seriously. It also inspired the growth of civil rights organizations such as Asian Americans Advancing Justice, which continues to protect voting rights and promote equality. His story also encouraged Asian Americans to pursue leadership roles in law, government, journalism, and activism, increasing representation and ensuring their voices were heard. In modern times, we see many Asians in higher positions and with equal rights as everyone else. However, these changes may not have happened if it were not for the tragedy that occurred on June 1982. Vincent Chin's death was not just a moment of loss. It became a catalyst for lasting change. His legacy united communities, strengthened civil rights protections, and empowered future generations to stand against injustice. Though his life was taken, the movement it inspired continues to fight for a more equal and just society.